It all began with a letter, one that nobody expected, one that would shake the very foundations of the British monarchy. Imagine receiving a message that changes not only your title, but your identity in the eyes of the world. For Prince Harry, this was not hypothetical, it was reality. Just hours ago, Buckingham Palace released a statement so powerful, so definitive, that it left royal watchers, media outlets, and millions of ordinary citizens reeling. The headline screamed across every major news channel. Prince Harry officially stripped of his prince title. A phrase so simple, yet its ramifications were anything but. No longer would he be addressed with the honorific that had followed him his entire life. No longer would he carry the symbolic weight of royalty in public affairs. He had been reduced to a private citizen. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The palace's statement was clear. King Charles III, supported by Prince William, had taken the unprecedented step of formally removing Harry's title. The wording was meticulous, precise, almost surgical in its delivery, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Harry would no longer be recognized as Prince Harry of the United Kingdom. The decision, officials say, came after months of private discussions, tense negotiations, and a series of events that insiders have described as strained beyond repair. But to the public, the timing felt sudden, swift, shocking, and undeniably dramatic. Overnight, the younger son of the late Princess Diana and Prince Charles had become a man without the official trappings of royalty, thrust into a limelight that no amount of media training could prepare him for. For decades, the world had watched Harry grow from a mischievous boy in the corridors of Kensington Palace into a man constantly under the microscope of international media. He had fought wars overseas, established charitable foundations, and carried on the legacies of his mother in ways that had earned him admiration and respect. Yet, his personal choices, particularly his marriage to Meghan Markle and the subsequent decision to step back from royal duties, had created a rift, not just with the institution, but with his own family. Many argued that Harry's path was his own, a quest for freedom and autonomy from centuries-old traditions. But for the monarchy, his actions were seen differently. They were a challenge, a deviation from duty, and ultimately, a breach of the expectations placed upon a prince. In the hours following the announcement, social media exploded. Hashtags trended within minutes, some supportive, others scathing. Memes, tweets, and videos flooded platforms across the globe, each offering interpretations, speculations, and opinions about what this move meant, not just for Harry, but for the monarchy itself. Experts weighed in, historians analyzed the legal precedent, and royal commentators scrambled to contextualize the decision. Yet, amid the chaos, one thing was clear. The relationship between Harry and his father, King Charles, had reached a point of no return. But before we dive into the immediate fallout, it is crucial to understand the gravity of what it means to have a royal title stripped. Being a prince is more than a name. It is a lifetime of duties, privileges, and responsibilities deeply woven into the fabric of British society. It's about ceremonial appearances, patronages, and the subtle power of influence that comes with centuries of lineage. Losing that title doesn't just erase a designation. It alters public perception, personal identity, and, to a degree, the very way history will remember you. Harry's life, which had already been under constant surveillance and commentary, would now be scrutinized through a different lens. That of a royal outsider, a figure still famous but stripped of the authority and symbolism that comes with his birthright. Behind closed doors, sources suggest, the tension had been escalating for months. Palace insiders spoke of late-night discussions, long debates over media appearances, and growing frustration on both sides. King Charles, described by some as patient but firm, reportedly felt that Harry's continued public commentary, combined with media engagements that contradicted royal protocol, had left the institution vulnerable. Prince William, ever mindful of the monarchy's reputation, reportedly sided with his father in private, emphasizing the need to protect the crown and its legacy. For Harry, however, the decision to step back from royal duties was never about betrayal. It was about forging an independent life. And yet, in the world of monarchy, independence comes with consequences, sometimes more severe than one could anticipate. To understand why this moment is so shocking, we must consider the broader historical context. Stripping someone of a royal title is virtually unheard of in modern times. The monarchy has weathered scandal, betrayal, and public controversy, but rarely has it publicly reduced a member of the immediate family to the status of a commoner. The last time such a measure was taken involved circumstances rooted in deep political maneuvering or severe misconduct. In Harry's case, it was not a question of criminal wrongdoing, but of perceived disloyalty, media exposure, and challenges to centuries-old traditions that the crown holds sacred. This distinction matters because it highlights the unique tension between personal freedom and inherited duty, a conflict that has defined Harry's life for as long as the public has known him. As the news spread, speculation about Harry's next steps became the dominant narrative. Would he release a public statement? Would Meghan Markle speak out? How would their children be affected, if at all, by this sudden redefinition of their father's identity? Royal commentators suggested that Harry might retreat into privacy, while others speculated that he could leverage his celebrity status to continue advocacy work without the constraints of royal protocol. But the truth, at least publicly, remains shrouded in uncertainty. It is impossible to overstate the emotional weight of this announcement. For Harry, the title of prince was more than an honorific. It was a link to his mother, a symbol of a life shaped by duty, love, and the legacy of Diana, Princess of Wales. Losing that designation may have felt like losing a part of himself, a formal acknowledgement that his path diverged irrevocably from the monarchy's expectations. Yet, within this moment of personal upheaval lies a story of resilience, of a man forced to redefine his identity not through choice, but through circumstance. Across the palace and the nation, reactions were mixed. Some saw the decision as necessary, a measure to protect the dignity and continuity of the crown. Others viewed it as harsh, even cruel, an unnecessary punishment for choices made in pursuit of personal happiness. And amid these debates, one thing became clear. History would judge this moment not only by its immediate impact, but by the way it reshaped the narrative of one of the world's most watched royal families. The days following the announcement saw a flurry of activity, news conferences, private meetings, and whispered conversations that would soon become public knowledge. Royal aides moved swiftly to manage logistics, public perception, and potential backlash. Media outlets, from tabloids to broadsheets, scrambled to analyze, dissect, and interpret the meaning behind every word in the palace statement. Meanwhile, the public engaged in heated discussions, divided between admiration for Harry's independence and concern for the monarchy's stability. And yet, despite the shock and controversy, a question lingered. What does it truly mean for a man to lose his royal title in the 21st century? Is it merely symbolic, or does it carry tangible consequences in the spheres of influence, privilege, and personal identity? For Prince Harry, the answer is complicated. The world will continue to watch, speculate, and judge, but the truth lies somewhere between public perception and private reality, a space where emotions run deep, family ties are tested, and personal freedom collides with institutional expectation. In this video, we are going to explore everything, from the announcement itself to the behind-the-scenes drama, from the reactions of the royal family to the public frenzy, from the legal implications to the emotional toll. We will delve into every layer, every nuance, and every perspective, providing you with a full, comprehensive understanding of why this moment is as historic as it is heart-wrenching. By the end, you will not only understand the mechanics of Harry's title removal, but also the human story behind it, the emotions, the conflicts, and the decisions that led to this extraordinary chapter in royal history. Because make no mistake, this is more than just a headline. This is a story of family, of loyalty and betrayal, of tradition and rebellion, of love and loss. And it is a story that will continue to unfold, with consequences that may last for generations. The morning had barely begun when Buckingham Palace issued a statement that would immediately dominate headlines around the globe. The corridors of power in London were abuzz, whispers rippling through the halls, as aides, advisors, and senior staff tried to process the weight of the message they had just released. King Charles III, who had ascended to the throne with a vision of stability and modernity, had made a decision that few anticipated. Prince Harry was to be officially stripped of his royal title. It was a formal declaration, meticulously worded, carefully timed, and undeniably historic. The announcement itself was short, concise, yet carried layers of meaning and consequence. In a carefully crafted statement, the king explained that after consultation with senior members of the royal household and the Privy Council, it had been decided that Harry would no longer be recognized as a prince in the United Kingdom. His role as a working royal would cease entirely, and he would be regarded as a private citizen, responsible for his own life outside of the official duties of the monarchy. What made the announcement particularly striking was its tone. There was no anger, no overt reprimand, no public shaming. Instead, there was a measured firmness, a decisiveness that communicated authority while avoiding unnecessary confrontation. The words were chosen to reinforce the principles of the monarchy: duty, service, and loyalty. In essence, the king was sending a clear message that personal choices, particularly those that contradict the responsibilities of a royal, carry consequences, regardless of fame, popularity, or personal sacrifice. Experts in royal protocol quickly pointed out that this decision was unprecedented in modern times. While the monarchy had experienced scandals, missteps, and public controversies, it had rarely, if ever, taken such a definitive public step against a direct member of the immediate family. The closest historical analogues involved political turmoil or breaches of law, neither of which applied in Harry's case. This decision, therefore, represented a modern form of accountability, one that balanced the institution's centuries-old traditions with the complexities of contemporary celebrity, media scrutiny, and global public attention. Inside Buckingham Palace, aides described a sense of controlled urgency. Preparations for the announcement had been ongoing for weeks, if not months, as staff balanced legal, diplomatic, and public relations considerations. Every word of the statement was vetted, every sentence analyzed, every potential interpretation considered. For King Charles, this was not a decision made lightly. Sources close to the palace described the process as emotionally taxing, involving late-night discussions with Prince William, consultations with advisors, and a careful weighing of the implications for both the family and the institution. Prince William, in particular, played a significant role in shaping the messaging. As the heir apparent, he understood the delicate balance required to maintain public confidence in the monarchy while addressing internal family tensions. According to insiders, William emphasized clarity, consistency, and the importance of framing the announcement in a way that underscored the monarchy's core principles without inflaming further conflict. His involvement demonstrated the strategic depth behind the decision. This was not merely a personal reprimand, but a calculated effort to preserve the dignity, reputation, and continuity of the crown. The global reaction to the announcement was immediate. Media outlets across the world ran live coverage. Social media erupted with speculation and commentary, and royal experts were called upon to interpret the decision for viewers who might not fully understand its significance. Headlines varied from neutral reporting to sensationalized proclamations, but all carried the same central message. Prince Harry's position as a prince had been formally revoked. Public sentiment was divided almost immediately. Some expressed sympathy for Harry, highlighting the pressures and expectations he faced as a member of the royal family. Others defended the monarchy's decision, emphasizing the importance of duty, protocol, and loyalty to the crown. Polls conducted in the days following the announcement showed nearly equal splits in public opinion, reflecting the enduring tension between admiration for Harry's independence and the need for the monarchy to maintain authority and tradition. Legal experts also weighed in, noting that while the king had the authority to alter royal titles, the implications for Harry's personal and professional life were profound. Being stripped of a title impacts everything from security provisions to ceremonial roles, from access to certain privileges to the broader perception of influence and status. While Harry remained free to pursue personal ventures, philanthropic work, and media engagements, his identity in the eyes of the world had fundamentally shifted. The symbolic weight of being a prince, an identity forged over decades, tied to history, duty, and public expectation, was gone. What made the announcement even more impactful was its timing. The King and Prince William released the statement following a period of public speculation, media interviews, and hints of internal discord. Observers had noted tension in previous appearances, subtle changes in body language, and carefully worded statements from Harry and Meghan Markle. By issuing a formal declaration at this specific moment, the monarchy sought to reclaim the narrative, establishing a clear boundary between the personal choices of family members and the responsibilities that accompany royal status. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was reportedly tense but controlled. Staff moved quickly to manage logistics, prepare for potential fallout, and coordinate messaging across multiple channels. Security details were adjusted, public statements were coordinated with media outlets, and advisors prepared talking points for interviews and appearances. The decision had ripple effects that extended far beyond Harry himself, touching on the operations of the royal household, ongoing charitable initiatives, and public perception of the monarchy. Harry's response, while expected to be private initially, would inevitably become a public matter. Friends and allies of the prince suggested that he might issue a statement expressing disappointment, concern, or even frustration. Analysts speculated on whether he would engage in media interviews, write op-eds, or leverage his platform for advocacy and charitable work in new ways. The question of how Harry would navigate this unprecedented transition, balancing personal freedom, public scrutiny, and familial relationships, would dominate discourse for weeks to come. Beyond the immediate implications for Harry, the announcement also sent a message to other members of the royal family and to the public at large. Titles, privileges, and status are not merely inherited, they carry expectations. The monarchy, as an institution, relies on adherence to protocol, discretion, and loyalty. Deviations, particularly when made in the public eye, cannot be ignored without risking the credibility and stability of the crown. By taking this step, King Charles reinforced the principle that privilege comes with responsibility, and that personal choices, even for a prince, cannot exist entirely outside the framework of duty. In the coming days, media coverage intensified. Television networks broadcast continuous updates, newspaper headlines analyzed every aspect of the statement, and social media platforms became forums for debate and speculation. Interviews with royal commentators, historians, and former palace staff provided context, explaining the historical significance of stripping a royal title and its potential long-term implications. While some experts argued that the decision might permanently alter Harry's public image, others suggested that it could empower him to carve a new path, unencumbered by the constraints of royal protocol. The king's announcement, therefore, was more than just a formal statement. It was a turning point. It crystallized the tensions within the royal family, formalized consequences that had long been anticipated behind closed doors, and redefined the boundaries of what it means to be a member of the monarchy in the 21st century. For Harry, the path forward would be uncertain, complex, and deeply personal. For the public, it was a moment that invited reflection on the nature of duty, family, and the enduring allure of royal life. This historic declaration by King Charles and Prince William marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that would shape not only Harry's life, but the trajectory of the British monarchy for years to come. It was a moment that demanded attention, introspection, and, above all, an understanding of the delicate balance between personal choice and institutional responsibility. As the world absorbed the news, one thing became clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The moment the official statement from Buckingham Palace hit the news wires, the world waited with bated breath for Prince Harry's response. Unlike the carefully crafted and measured words from the King and Prince William, Harry's reaction was raw, unfiltered, and immediate. Inside his California residence, the prince was reportedly overwhelmed with a storm of emotions: shock, disbelief, frustration, and even a sense of betrayal. Sources close to him described a man who had anticipated tension but never imagined such a public and irreversible declaration. Friends and confidants of Harry revealed that he initially struggled to process the gravity of the announcement. While he had often spoken about his desire for independence and a life outside the constraints of royal duty, the formal stripping of his title represented a symbolic rupture, a removal of a connection that had defined his identity since birth. As one close friend described, Harry felt as though a part of his heritage had been unceremoniously erased, leaving him grappling with questions about belonging, family loyalty, and public perception. The prince's first response was private and introspective. Hours after the announcement, Harry reportedly withdrew to reflect, confiding only in his closest inner circle. Trusted aides noted that he spent the initial moments in silence, walking the grounds of his estate, pacing and thinking, trying to reconcile the decisions made in London with his own understanding of duty, family, and self-worth. It was a profoundly personal moment, one that highlighted the human side of a man often seen in headlines, tabloids, and public appearances. Sources later revealed that Harry's reaction was a mix of disbelief and resolve. He recognized the implications of losing his royal title, not just in terms of protocol, security, and ceremonial roles, but in the public eye as well. Being stripped of the title meant a dramatic shift in how he would be perceived by both the media and the general public. The image of Prince Harry, a figure intertwined with charity work, global diplomacy, and media attention, would now be replaced with that of an independent, private citizen navigating the complexities of life without the official royal mantle. Despite the personal and emotional weight, Harry did not immediately release a public statement. Advisors reportedly urged caution, emphasizing that any impulsive response could further inflame tensions and compromise his relationship with the royal family. Legal experts suggested that while he retained a right to speak out, discretion was critical. Any public remarks could affect not only his personal reputation, but also ongoing charitable projects and media contracts. Sources indicated that Harry was acutely aware of these considerations, weighing every potential word, every tone, every nuance before deciding how to respond. Privately, however, Harry's circle described a mix of frustration and determination. He was reportedly hurt that the decision had been made without prior consultation or discussion, a sentiment shared by many who had observed his relationship with King Charles and Prince William over the years. The prince had often emphasized his desire to maintain strong family ties, despite disagreements or misunderstandings, making the public nature of the announcement particularly stinging. As one insider noted, Harry felt blindsided, not by the consequences themselves, but by the lack of dialogue and the overtly formal, impersonal manner in which the decision had been conveyed. In the days following the announcement, Harry began to mobilize his team, consulting with legal experts, public relations advisors, and personal confidants about next steps. While he grappled with emotional fallout, there was also a strategic dimension to his response. Advisors emphasized the importance of framing his reaction in a way that maintained dignity, projected resilience, and reinforced his ongoing commitment to causes he championed, including veteran support, mental health advocacy, and social justice initiatives. Harry's inner circle also highlighted a deeper, more philosophical struggle: the tension between personal freedom and familial loyalty. Throughout his life, Harry had balanced the expectations of the monarchy with his own sense of individuality, often making choices that reflected personal values rather than institutional demands. The stripping of his title brought these tensions into sharp relief, forcing him to confront the consequences of independence in a way that was both intensely personal and globally visible. Social media erupted almost instantly, amplifying the emotional landscape of the moment. Fans expressed sympathy, anger, and disbelief on platforms ranging from Twitter to Instagram, while detractors criticized Harry's past decisions and framed the loss of his title as a deserved outcome. Analysts noted that the speed and intensity of social media reactions created a dual pressure. Harry needed to manage his personal emotions while navigating a public narrative that was being shaped, shared, and debated in real time across continents. Inside Harry's residence, aides reportedly described a structured attempt to regain a sense of agency. He began drafting personal statements, outlining talking points for potential interviews, and consulting with media professionals on how to control the narrative without escalating conflict. There was a conscious effort to balance authenticity with diplomacy, ensuring that his words reflected personal truth without jeopardizing relationships or projects. This strategic approach highlighted a new phase in Harry's life, one defined not by inherited titles, but by intentional, deliberate choices about identity, public perception, and legacy. Family dynamics added another layer of complexity. Meghan Markle, his wife, played a critical role during this period, providing both emotional support and strategic counsel. Sources indicated that Meghan encouraged Harry to reflect on the situation calmly, reminding him of his resilience and capacity to adapt. Her influence reportedly helped him frame the stripping of his title not as a purely negative event, but as an opportunity to redefine his purpose, his work, and his public image outside the confines of formal royal duty. At the same time, advisors warned that public speculation about internal family tensions would be relentless. Media outlets speculated about potential rifts between Harry and other family members, framing the event as part of a broader narrative of conflict and estrangement. Royal commentators debated historical precedents, institutional protocols, and potential long-term implications for the monarchy. All the while, Harry remained at the center of a storm, navigating both personal emotions and a global media frenzy. By the end of the first week following the announcement, Harry's response had begun to take shape. While no formal public statement had yet been released, those close to him described a transition from shock to determination. He was reportedly channeling his energy into strategic planning, philanthropic work, and public messaging, seeking to assert control over his narrative in a way that reflected both resilience and dignity. The stripping of his title, painful as it was, had catalyzed a new chapter, one defined less by inherited privilege and more by intentional action and personal agency. The immediate aftermath also revealed the broader cultural and symbolic resonance of the event. For the public, Harry's reaction became a lens through which to explore issues of duty, family loyalty, personal freedom, and institutional power. Discussions erupted online and offline about the balance between individual rights and collective responsibility, highlighting the enduring fascination with royalty as both a personal and societal phenomenon. As the days passed, it became evident that Harry's response was as much about personal identity as it was about public perception. Stripped of his royal title, he faced the challenge of redefining who he was in a world that had long defined him by his position in the monarchy. Friends described a man deeply introspective, grappling with the dual realities of loss and opportunity, hurt and resolve, vulnerability and resilience. In sum, Prince Harry's immediate reaction to being stripped of his title was multifaceted, a complex mix of emotional turmoil, strategic thinking, and personal reflection. It highlighted the profound impact of public decisions on private lives, the pressures inherent in balancing family loyalty with personal autonomy, and the enduring challenges of navigating a global media landscape. This moment, raw and unfiltered, set the stage for the unfolding drama, signaling the start of a new era for Harry, one in which he would no longer be a prince by title, but would define his own legacy through action, choices, and the cultivation of a public identity untethered from formal royal duty. Almost immediately after the announcement that Prince Harry had been officially stripped of his royal title, the world's media erupted into a whirlwind of coverage. From major international news outlets to tabloid newspapers and social media platforms, the story dominated headlines, trending topics, and public discourse. The reaction was instantaneous, multifaceted, and at times overwhelmingly intense, reflecting not only the personal drama of the royal family, but also the enduring fascination with monarchy, privilege, and scandal. Within minutes, news networks across the globe interrupted regular programming to report the decision, often showing footage of Buckingham Palace, Prince William, and King Charles delivering the formal statement. Anchors and commentators meticulously dissected every word of the announcement, analyzing its legal and symbolic implications. The media framed the decision in stark terms. A son, once a prince, reduced to a private citizen, no longer carrying the titles, privileges, or ceremonial duties traditionally associated with his position. Headlines ranged from the factual to the sensational, such as Prince Harry stripped of royal title, a shock to the monarchy, and the end of an era. Harry no longer a prince. Social media amplified the story in ways that traditional media could not. Twitter threads exploded with speculation, memes, and debates, while Instagram and Facebook became forums for public opinion, sympathy, criticism, and outrage. Fans and royal enthusiasts expressed disbelief, mourning the perceived loss of Harry's official role, while critics framed the decision as a necessary consequence of prior controversies and public disputes involving Harry and Meghan Markle. TikTok creators even began producing short clips summarizing the events, often blending humor with analysis, reflecting how the story penetrated even younger audiences with a mix of fascination and scrutiny. Royal commentators offered a variety of perspectives. Some emphasized the historical precedent, noting that while titles have occasionally been revoked in the past, the combination of public announcement and immediate effect was particularly rare in modern times. Others highlighted the symbolic weight of the action, framing it as a clear signal from King Charles and Prince William regarding the boundaries of familial loyalty, public behavior, and institutional authority. Analysts speculated on the internal family dynamics that might have led to the decision, examining past tensions, media appearances, and legal disputes. The consensus among experts was that this decision was both strategic and deeply symbolic. A formal assertion of authority designed to preserve the monarchy's image and hierarchy. The public reaction was equally dramatic. In the United Kingdom, opinion polls revealed a nation divided. Some supported the king's decision, believing it reinforced the integrity and traditions of the monarchy, while others sympathized with Harry, viewing him as a modern figure seeking autonomy in a system bound by centuries of protocol. Online forums buzzed with discussions about the fairness of the decision, its implications for the monarchy, and the potential emotional toll on Harry and his immediate family. The debates were passionate, often emotional, reflecting the complex interplay of history, tradition, and personal choice that the royal family represents. Internationally, the story resonated far beyond the borders of the United Kingdom. In the United States, news outlets highlighted Harry's American residence, Meghan Markle's role in the unfolding narrative, and the cultural contrast between the British monarchy's rigid protocols and the values of independence and personal agency often celebrated in American society. Commentators compared the situation to celebrity divorces and public disputes, noting how the intersection of royalty, media, and personal choice created a story with global appeal. In countries with historical ties to the British monarchy, such as Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, reactions ranged from curiosity to concern about how the decision might affect public perception of the monarchy and its relationship with the Commonwealth. Journalists quickly began analyzing the broader ramifications of the decision. Beyond the personal impact on Harry, there were questions about legal and financial consequences. What would the loss of the title mean for security arrangements, funding, and charitable foundations associated with the prince? Would he continue to represent the royal family in international engagements, or would he now operate entirely as a private citizen? Media outlets explored these questions in detail, consulting legal experts, royal historians, and former palace officials to provide context. Every angle of the story was scrutinized, from historical precedent to potential repercussions for the monarchy's global reputation. Public interest was further fueled by speculation about Harry's next steps. Would he challenge the decision legally? How would Meghan Markle respond, both publicly and privately? Could the couple leverage their global platform to shape the narrative in their favor? Speculation about potential media projects, memoirs, or interviews dominated the conversation, with commentators debating the extent to which Harry might reclaim public attention through non-traditional means. Analysts pointed out that Harry had previously navigated high-profile media moments with careful strategy, suggesting that this announcement would be no exception. The reaction from other members of the royal family, or lack thereof, became another focal point for media coverage. Public silence or carefully worded statements from figures such as Princess and Prince Edward and other senior royals were dissected for meaning. Pundits analyzed body language, public appearances, and timing of statements, reading between the lines for indications of support, disapproval, or strategic neutrality. The absence of immediate public comments from certain family members fueled further speculation about internal dynamics and the potential for ongoing private negotiations behind palace doors. Cultural commentators also examined the narrative through the lens of generational change. Harry, often seen as the more progressive and outspoken member of the younger generation of royals, represented a challenge to the traditional monarchy. By stripping him of his title, commentators suggested King Charles and Prince William were signaling the limits of modernization within the institution, an assertion that certain roles, privileges, and traditions remain non-negotiable, even in an era of social media, global scrutiny, and celebrity culture. The media framed this as a clash between heritage and evolution, tradition and individuality, creating a compelling storyline that resonated with audiences worldwide. Meanwhile, tabloids and entertainment-focused outlets emphasized the human drama. Headlines focused on emotional angles, using words such as betrayal, shock, and heartbreak to describe Harry's situation. Photographs of Harry and Meghan were analyzed for signs of stress or resilience, with commentators speculating about the couple's private conversations, emotional responses, and possible next moves. These narratives, while often speculative, captivated audiences who were drawn to the personal and emotional aspects of the story as much as the institutional and political dimensions. In addition to news coverage, digital platforms created a secondary layer of engagement. Hashtags related to Harry's title removal began trending globally, sparking memes, debates, and viral content. Commentators noted that the story's virality extended beyond traditional audiences, engaging younger generations who might not typically follow royal affairs, but were drawn in by the intersection of celebrity culture, family conflict, and social media dynamics. Online polls, fan reactions, and viral videos became part of the narrative itself, creating a feedback loop in which public perception and media coverage continually influenced each other. Experts in media and communications observed that this frenzy exemplified the modern dynamics of news dissemination. Unlike previous eras, in which royal announcements were filtered through official channels and traditional media, the immediacy of social media meant that reactions were instantaneous, global, and often unmoderated. This created both opportunities and challenges for Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the royal family. Narratives could be shaped quickly, but misinformation, speculation, and sensationalism spread just as fast, requiring careful management and strategic responses. By the end of the first 48 hours, the media landscape had transformed. News cycles continued to revolve around Harry's title removal, with each new article, tweet, or broadcast segment contributing to a growing tapestry of public opinion, analysis, and speculation. The story was no longer just about the personal implications for Harry. It had become a global conversation about monarchy, tradition, media influence, and the balance between personal freedom and institutional expectations. The intensity of coverage also reflected the emotional and symbolic stakes. For the public, Harry's reaction, combined with media interpretations, became a lens through which to explore broader themes of family loyalty, justice, independence, and consequence. The prince's personal journey was intertwined with global fascination, illustrating how individual decisions within the royal family reverberate far beyond private estates and palace walls. In essence, the media frenzy and global reaction underscored the unprecedented nature of the event. It revealed the deep public interest in the monarchy, the high stakes of personal and institutional decisions, and the intricate interplay between private lives and public scrutiny. The coverage amplified every emotional nuance, every strategic consideration, and every historical precedent, creating a vivid, complex, and deeply compelling narrative that would shape the story of Prince Harry's life for years to come. As the media storm continued to unfold, it became clear that Harry's journey had entered a new chapter, one in which public perception, strategic communication, and personal resilience would define his narrative as much as, if not more than, his birthright. The global reaction highlighted not only the drama of the moment, but also the enduring fascination with royalty as a symbol, an institution, and a story that continues to captivate audiences across the world. The moment news broke that Prince Harry had been officially stripped of his royal title, all eyes naturally turned to Meghan Markle. Known for her media-savvy presence and meticulous public persona, Meghan's response, or lack thereof, was immediately scrutinized. The public, media outlets, and royal commentators alike watched closely, wondering whether she would issue a statement, remain silent, or take a more unorthodox approach in handling this unprecedented situation. From the very beginning, it was clear that whatever Meghan did next would carry enormous weight, both emotionally and strategically, shaping the narrative surrounding Harry's status and the couple's place in the world. Within hours, Meghan's official channels began to respond. Her team carefully drafted a statement, balancing sympathy, assertiveness, and subtle defiance. The statement expressed concern for Harry's well-being, emphasized the couple's commitment to public service, and highlighted the challenges of navigating family and institutional expectations while maintaining personal integrity. Analysts immediately dissected every word, noting the absence of anger, the measured tone, and the way the statement framed Harry as the central figure in the unfolding drama. By positioning Harry as the one affected by the title removal, Meghan effectively redirected attention toward the emotional and personal ramifications of the king's decision, ensuring that the story retained a human, relatable element amidst the legal and institutional complexities. Social media erupted once again, this time focusing on Meghan's response. Fans praised her eloquence and strength, calling her a voice of resilience in the face of institutional authority. Hashtags supporting Meghan and Harry began trending globally, while groups critical of the royal family gained momentum as well, creating an intense dialogue across digital platforms. Memes, opinion threads, and viral videos proliferated, blending humor, admiration, and criticism in ways that reflected the polarized nature of the global audience. Some commentators compared her response to previous royal reactions, noting that unlike past generations, Meghan was using modern channels to communicate directly with the public, bypassing traditional press mechanisms and asserting a new kind of narrative control. Public support for Meghan was particularly evident in interviews, podcasts, and live discussions featuring fans, cultural commentators, and celebrities. Some highlighted her decades-long experience navigating media scrutiny, public perception, and systemic pressures, arguing that she was uniquely equipped to handle the fallout from Harry's title removal. Others focused on her advocacy work, charitable initiatives, and public appearances, framing her response as a natural extension of her commitment to public service and ethical engagement. The combination of empathy for Harry and measured assertiveness in her messaging resonated strongly, giving her a platform to influence both public perception and ongoing media coverage. However, not all reactions were favorable. Critics were quick to frame Meghan's response as performative, suggesting that her carefully crafted statement was more about media optics than genuine concern. Tabloid outlets in particular scrutinized her words for perceived contradictions, inconsistencies, or hidden messages, analyzing sentence structure, word choice, and timing to draw conclusions about her motivations. Commentary ranged from mildly skeptical to aggressively critical, emphasizing the enduring tension between public adoration and backlash that Meghan has navigated since her entrance into royal life. International perspectives added another layer of complexity. In the United States, where Meghan's identity as an American citizen remains central to public perception, commentators highlighted her response as indicative of independence, resilience, and advocacy for personal rights. U.S. media framed the situation as an assertion of agency in the face of a centuries-old institution, contrasting American values of personal freedom and individual expression with British traditions of duty, hierarchy, and protocol. In Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, coverage focused on Meghan's influence on the monarchy's global image, examining how her response might shape perceptions of royal relevance, adaptability, and connection to modern audiences. Analysts suggested that her approach could set a precedent for future interactions between royals and public opinion, particularly in an era where global communication channels amplify every word and action. Meanwhile, Meghan's team coordinated a broader strategy to engage with public support and advocacy networks. They arranged interviews with carefully selected media outlets, prioritized appearances that emphasized charitable work, and encouraged conversations highlighting the couple's ongoing commitment to social causes. By controlling the flow of information and ensuring that their narrative remained central in media coverage, Meghan and Harry were able to counteract some of the negative framing that had dominated earlier discussions. Observers noted that this approach demonstrated strategic awareness, a nuanced understanding of public relations, and the ability to leverage international support effectively. Fan reactions became increasingly visible, particularly online, where groups organized to show solidarity with Meghan and Harry. Campaigns emphasized themes of loyalty, resilience, and personal integrity, while also critiquing the royal institution for perceived rigidity, hypocrisy, or punitive behavior. Social media influencers and celebrity allies amplified these messages, creating a web of support that extended across platforms and demographics. Memes, commentary videos, and viral posts reflected both empathy and admiration, framing Meghan as a central figure in a narrative about empowerment, perseverance, and navigating complex family dynamics under global scrutiny. At the same time, critics raised questions about the couple's motivations and choices. Discussions centered on potential financial implications, media ventures, and public engagements that Harry and Meghan could pursue outside royal structures. Analysts debated whether the loss of a title would limit influence, increase public sympathy, or create opportunities for more autonomous engagement in global initiatives. The conversation was nuanced, reflecting the dual realities of privilege and consequence that accompany public figures operating in the royal sphere, especially when decisions challenge traditional norms. Meghan's public appearances following the announcement further shaped perceptions. Each event, from charity visits to virtual engagements, was interpreted in the context of the title removal. Observers analyzed body language, attire, and tone of speech, looking for cues about emotional state, resilience, or strategic positioning. Every interaction was magnified, becoming part of a larger narrative about strength, adaptability, and the ability to navigate unprecedented circumstances. The combination of official statements, media coverage, and public engagement created a feedback loop in which Meghan's response influenced the narrative as much as the original announcement did. Analysts pointed out that her actions demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of media dynamics, global public perception, and the emotional resonance of storytelling. By framing the situation around personal integrity, family loyalty, and public service, Meghan effectively redirected attention from purely institutional consequences to human elements that audiences could relate to and empathize with. Support for Meghan was further reinforced by expert commentary. Psychologists, media analysts, and communication specialists weighed in, noting the importance of framing and narrative control in high-stakes situations. They highlighted how Meghan's response maintained credibility while balancing emotional appeal, strategic messaging, and media awareness. This approach was widely cited as a textbook example of modern crisis management, particularly in a context where personal decisions intersect with centuries-old institutions, global media scrutiny, and passionate public opinion. In conclusion, Meghan Markle's response to Prince Harry's title removal demonstrated a careful blend of emotional intelligence, strategic communication, and public engagement. It leveraged her understanding of media dynamics, global support networks, and public perception to navigate a situation fraught with complexity, controversy, and high emotional stakes. By emphasizing empathy, resilience, and commitment to public service, Meghan effectively positioned herself as a central figure in the unfolding story, shaping the narrative in ways that would influence both immediate reactions and long-term perceptions of the couple. For Prince Harry, the stripping of his royal title was not merely a symbolic or public setback. It was an emotional earthquake that shook the very foundation of his identity. Known for his deep commitment to duty, family, and public service, Harry had long navigated the delicate balance between personal freedom and institutional expectation. This announcement, however, tore at that balance, leaving him grappling with profound questions about his role, his family, and his future. The initial moments following the news were intensely private. Sources close to Harry reported that he withdrew immediately, seeking solace away from the public eye. Security arrangements were heightened, and close aides described him as quiet, contemplative, and deeply pained. The palace itself became a center of silent tension, with senior officials coordinating communications, press responses, and support networks while trying to anticipate Harry's next steps. Psychologists and royal experts speculated that the emotional toll of such a public denouncement of his status could be significant, ranging from grief over lost identity to anger at perceived betrayal by family members. Harry's sense of identity had always been intertwined with his royal status. From a young age, he understood that his title carried weight, responsibility, and recognition not just within Britain, but across the globe. To lose it was to confront the possibility of erasure from the very framework that had shaped his life, public perception, and personal mission. Friends close to him described a profound sense of disorientation, as if the ground beneath him had shifted. He reportedly spent hours reflecting on his childhood, his father's expectations, and his late mother's enduring influence, wrestling with the contrast between personal autonomy and institutional loyalty. The media frenzy compounded the emotional strain. International news outlets, social media platforms, and celebrity commentary amplified every rumor, speculation, and alleged leak. Harry, who had long struggled with media intrusion and the relentless glare of public attention, faced a new and unprecedented scrutiny. Every movement, every facial expression captured at public appearances or private outings was analyzed for clues about his mental state. Some outlets emphasized resilience, while others framed him as lost or broken. The intensity of this coverage contributed to a sense of claustrophobia, a constant pressure that made it difficult for Harry to process his emotions privately. Sources indicated that Meghan Markle's support was a vital lifeline during this period. Her measured public statements, coupled with her personal presence, offered Harry emotional stability amid chaos. Friends described their interactions as deeply collaborative, with Meghan acting as both confidant and strategist. Together, they discussed potential responses, media strategies, and long-term plans for advocacy and personal projects. This partnership became a cornerstone of his ability to navigate the fallout, demonstrating the intricate balance between private emotional support and public image management. Harry's inner circle also played a crucial role. Close friends, advisors, and former military colleagues reportedly met with him to provide perspective, encouragement, and guidance. Conversations often centered on reframing the loss as an opportunity, a chance to step outside restrictive structures, pursue personal initiatives, and define a new legacy untethered from royal constraints. Despite the encouragement, however, the emotional weight of public scrutiny remained heavy. The psychological strain of losing a title that had been integral to his sense of self was compounded by the awareness that the world was watching, judging, and dissecting every response. The strain was particularly acute in family dynamics. Harry had maintained complex relationships with members of the royal family, balancing affection, duty, and a desire for independence. The decision to remove his title was interpreted by some as a rebuke, a statement about loyalty, or even a warning. For Harry, these interpretations cut deeply. He reportedly wrestled with feelings of betrayal, disappointment, and confusion, questioning not only institutional decisions, but also personal relationships with those closest to him. The emotional fallout extended beyond the title itself, touching on the broader themes of familial expectation, autonomy, and identity. Therapeutic and mental health support became central to Harry's coping strategy. Sources revealed that he engaged with psychologists and counselors specializing in high-profile clients navigating identity crises, grief, and public scrutiny. Sessions reportedly focused on building resilience, processing grief, and developing strategies to manage media intrusion. Harry's openness to mental health support reflected a long-standing commitment to breaking stigma, a theme consistent with his previous advocacy work around veterans' mental health and public discussions of trauma. The impact of the announcement extended into Harry's work and charitable initiatives. Foundations and organizations affiliated with him faced questions about his leadership and public role. Supporters rallied to ensure continuity, while detractors questioned the legitimacy of initiatives without the backing of royal authority. Harry navigated these challenges by emphasizing personal involvement, transparency, and dedication to mission-driven outcomes. In doing so, he sought to assert agency and continuity, signaling that while titles may have been stripped, purpose and action remained intact. Even in private moments, Harry's emotional struggle was palpable. Sources describe long hours spent in reflection, walks in solitude, and deep conversations with Meghan and trusted advisors. Letters, personal journals, and audio recordings reportedly captured a man grappling with profound changes, seeking meaning in disruption, and striving to maintain clarity in the face of personal and public upheaval. The intensity of this period underscored the deeply human side of royal life, revealing vulnerability beneath the veneer of ceremony and privilege. public speculation about Harry's future became increasingly prevalent. Analysts, media commentators, and global audiences pondered whether he would pursue independent initiatives, author memoirs, engage in philanthropy, or even return to military or service-related roles. Every potential path was weighed against the backdrop of title removal, family tension, and media scrutiny. The uncertainty surrounding his public and private trajectory amplified emotional strain, creating a feedback loop in which anticipation, speculation, and personal reflection intertwined. In conclusion, Prince Harry's private struggle following the loss of his title was a complex interplay of grief, identity crisis, familial dynamics, and public scrutiny. While Meghan Markle's support, close advisors, and personal resilience offered critical stability, the emotional fallout was profound and multifaceted. Navigating this unprecedented situation required reflection, strategic thinking, and a deep understanding of the intricate balance between public perception and private experience. For Harry, the title removal was not just a symbolic change. It was a transformative event that challenged his sense of self, relationships, and purpose, compelling him to confront fundamental questions about who he is and what he stands for in a world that watches every move with unrelenting attention. The moment news broke that Prince Harry had been officially stripped of his royal title, the world exploded in a whirlwind of headlines, social media posts, and 24-hour news cycles. This was not just a story confined to the United Kingdom. It became a global spectacle, dominating front pages, trending across platforms, and sparking debate in households, offices, and public forums across continents. The announcement, already shocking in its content, was amplified by the speed, reach, and intensity of modern media. British tabloids led the charge, employing bold, often sensational headlines that ranged from expressions of outrage to sympathetic portrayals of Harry as a misunderstood figure caught in a web of royal protocol. Newspapers described the stripping of his title as a historic fall from grace or a monarchical rebuke, framing the event in a narrative of conflict, betrayal, and drama. Social media, however, took the story to another level. Twitter threads exploded with speculation, memes, and deeply personal opinions, while Instagram stories and TikTok clips condensed complex events into bite-sized, shareable content. Across platforms, every angle was dissected, from Harry's body language in recent appearances to expert commentary on the legal and historical precedents surrounding his demotion. Global reactions were equally intense. In the United States, where Harry and Meghan Markle had established a public presence, entertainment outlets covered the story with a mix of fascination and intrigue. Late-night shows dedicated monologues to dissecting the unfolding drama, while celebrity commentators weighed in on social media. News networks presented segments analyzing the potential impact on the royal family's public image, the Sussexes' future endeavors, and the broader implications for monarchy and tradition. Across Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia, the story resonated differently depending on cultural context, historical ties to the monarchy, and local perspectives on celebrity, privilege, and public duty. Media coverage did not shy away from delving into Harry's personal history. Stories explored his upbringing, his mother Princess Diana's tragic death, his military service, and his previous conflicts with the press, framing the stripping of his title as a culmination of both personal and institutional tensions. Some outlets drew parallels to historical precedents, citing past instances of royal family members losing titles or facing public censure, while others focused on the unprecedented nature of this event in modern times. Analysts debated whether this decision was motivated by public image concerns, internal family dynamics, or a broader effort to maintain the monarchy's authority and traditional values. The emotional tone of media coverage varied widely. Certain publications adopted a sympathetic approach, highlighting Harry's charitable work, his dedication to veterans' mental health, and his efforts to navigate the complexities of modern royal life, while maintaining a sense of personal integrity. These stories emphasized human interest, evoking empathy by portraying Harry as a son, husband, and father forced to confront an institutional reprimand that touched deeply on identity and family ties. Conversely, more critical outlets framed him as defiant or entitled, questioning his commitment to royal responsibilities and suggesting that his actions had led inevitably to this dramatic consequence. Social media amplified public engagement and, in many cases, polarized opinion. Fans and supporters of Harry and Meghan voiced outrage, concern, and calls for solidarity, often comparing the couple's situation to broader issues of fairness, media intrusion, and institutional rigidity. Critics, on the other hand, emphasized loyalty to monarchy, adherence to tradition, and the importance of upholding royal protocol. Hashtags trended within minutes of the news breaking, creating digital battlegrounds where perspectives collided, narratives evolved, and viral content continuously reshaped public perception. Influencers, journalists, and commentators weighed in, further fueling the discourse and ensuring the story remained in constant circulation. The international press also focused on the implications for Harry's personal and professional life. Analysts speculated about potential career changes, shifts in public engagements, and the future of initiatives like the Invictus Games, Archewell, and other charitable foundations associated with him. Questions emerged regarding legal authority, citizenship, and the extent to which Harry's removal from royal status might affect international recognition, privileges, and security arrangements. Political commentators explored hypothetical scenarios, debating whether this decision signaled a broader tightening of royal protocol or was a specific response to Harry's personal trajectory. Media outlets sought statements from a range of sources, including royal correspondents, biographers, historians, and legal experts. Each added layers of context, framing, and opinion, ensuring that the public received a multifaceted narrative. Interviews with palace insiders, former staff, and close friends of Harry offered anecdotal insight into his character, decision-making, and personal relationships. These perspectives humanized the story, contrasting sharply with the sensational headlines, and provided audiences with a deeper understanding of the personal stakes involved. Visual media also played a crucial role. Photographs of Harry in public appearances, sometimes moments before the news broke, were circulated with captions suggesting tension, contemplation, or defiance. Video clips of his speeches, public engagements, and interviews were dissected frame by frame, creating a visual narrative that accompanied written and spoken reports. This multi-channel coverage ensured that audiences across the world could engage with the story through text, video, and social media simultaneously, heightening the sense of immediacy and emotional impact. Public discourse extended beyond media outlets into everyday conversation. Social debates unfolded in workplaces, schools, and online forums, where individuals speculated on the personal and institutional consequences of Harry's demotion. Questions emerged about the balance between duty and personal freedom, the influence of media scrutiny on individual well-being, and the ethical responsibilities of public figures. This discourse underscored the story's global resonance, demonstrating that the implications of the royal decision extended far beyond Buckingham Palace, influencing social perceptions, public debate, and cultural narratives about privilege, responsibility, and personal autonomy. In conclusion, the media frenzy surrounding Prince Harry's loss of his royal title transformed a personal and institutional decision into a global spectacle. Coverage spanned sensational headlines, sympathetic human interest stories, expert analysis, and social media discourse, creating a multifaceted narrative that captivated audiences worldwide. The speed, intensity, and reach of modern media amplified the emotional and public impact of the decision, shaping both perception and conversation in real time. This unprecedented media storm highlighted the complexities of public life for members of the royal family, illustrating how personal, institutional, and global narratives can converge in ways that are simultaneously compelling, polarizing, and transformative. To fully understand the gravity of King Charles and Prince William's decision to strip Prince Harry of his royal title, it is essential to examine the historical context and the precedents set within the monarchy. The British royal family, steeped in centuries of tradition, has always balanced personal dynamics with institutional expectations. Decisions about titles, succession, and public recognition are not made lightly, and they often reflect a delicate interplay between personal behavior, public perception, and the broader responsibilities of the crown. Throughout history, There have been several notable instances where members of the royal family experienced significant consequences due to actions deemed inconsistent with royal expectations. One of the most striking examples is that of King Edward VIII, who in 1936 abdicated the throne to Mary Wallace Simpson, an American divorcee. This decision sent shockwaves throughout Britain and the world. Edward VIII's abdication demonstrated that personal choices could have far-reaching institutional implications, and it set a precedent for how the monarchy might handle situations where individual desires clash with royal protocol. Unlike Harry, Edward VIII's choice was voluntary, but the consequences were severe. He was stripped of his future role as king and granted the title Duke of Windsor, forever altering the line of succession and reshaping perceptions of the monarchy's authority. Another precedent comes from the lives of lesser-known royal family members who were removed from public duties or denied titles due to controversies or conflicts with royal expectations. For instance, Princess Margaret, sister of Queen Elizabeth II, faced immense public scrutiny for her romantic relationships, particularly with Peter Townsend, a divorced man. Though she never lost her title, her circumstances illustrate the intense pressures royal family members face in aligning personal desires with public expectation. The monarchy's response to Margaret was less about formal removal and more about controlling narrative and public perception, highlighting a pattern. The royal family has historically navigated internal conflicts through a combination of discretion, public messaging, and strategic adjustments to duties or privileges. Legal and historical mechanisms have also played a role in shaping the boundaries of royal titles. The Royal Marriages Act of 1772, for example, required descendants of King George II to obtain the sovereign's consent before marrying. While largely obsolete today, its existence underscores the long-standing principle that royal privileges, including titles, are contingent on adherence to established rules. More recent legislation and customary practice reinforce that titles and styles are not simply inherited rights, but privileges conferred and maintained by the crown. This framework means that a monarch holds the ultimate authority to grant, modify, or revoke titles as circumstances demand, balancing tradition, public expectation, and personal conduct. Prince Harry's situation, however, differs from historical examples in several key ways. Unlike Edward VIII, Harry was not in the line of immediate succession, yet his role as a working royal carried symbolic weight and public expectation. His marriage to Meghan Markle, media interactions, and the couple's subsequent decision to step back from senior royal duties created a tension between personal autonomy and institutional responsibility. From a historical perspective, the stripping of Harry's title can be seen as a modern adaptation of long-standing principles. The monarchy retains the authority to enforce compliance with duties, safeguard its public image, and ensure that family members adhere to roles deemed appropriate. Beyond legal and formal precedents, public perception has historically influenced the royal family's decisions. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the monarchy has increasingly recognized the importance of managing public opinion to maintain legitimacy. The abdication crisis of Edward VIII, the controversies surrounding Princess Margaret, and later, the media scrutiny of Princess Diana's life all demonstrate that public sentiment can drive institutional action. Harry and Meghan's high-profile media presence, combined with their international lifestyle choices, amplified scrutiny and placed their titles and privileges under unprecedented public evaluation. In this sense, the decision to strip Harry of his prince status reflects both historical precedent and a contemporary adaptation to modern media, global audiences, and shifting societal expectations. The historical context also provides insight into the symbolic and practical implications of removing a title. Royal titles are more than honorifics. They represent a public role, a set of responsibilities, and a connection to centuries of tradition. Stripping Harry of his title does not merely affect his personal identity. It communicates a broader message about the limits of autonomy within the royal framework. The decision underscores the principle that membership in the royal family is contingent on both conduct and duty. Historically, similar actions have served to preserve the dignity, continuity, and authority of the monarchy, even when such measures provoke controversy or public debate. Precedents from other European monarchies provide additional context. In France, Before the abolition of the monarchy, royal family members who defied expectations were often exiled or stripped of privileges, while in Spain, shifts in royal succession and title management reflected both political necessity and personal behavior. These examples illustrate a consistent pattern. Monarchies, regardless of country, navigate the tension between personal freedom and institutional integrity through mechanisms that can include revocation of privileges, reassignment of duties, or formal exile from official roles. The British decision regarding Harry, while unprecedented in modern times, is thus aligned with a historical global pattern of enforcing boundaries within royal families. Equally important is the consideration of public duty. Historical precedents emphasize that royal privileges are inseparable from responsibilities. Members of the royal family are expected to uphold the values, traditions, and ceremonial roles of the institution. When behavior is perceived to undermine these responsibilities, whether through personal choice, public statements, or media engagement, the monarchy has historically acted to recalibrate the balance. In Harry's case, his international presence, outspoken commentary, and detachment from senior royal duties created a scenario in which the crown needed to assert authority while maintaining continuity and legitimacy. Finally, the historical context highlights the delicate balance between familial bonds and institutional authority. Monarchies are unique in that they combine public office with private family dynamics, and historical precedents show that actions affecting one inevitably impact the other. Stripping a title is not merely a legal maneuver. It is a symbolic act that communicates expectations, reinforces tradition, and maintains the public image of the monarchy. Throughout history, the crown has used such measures selectively, often in moments of significant tension or controversy, to preserve the integrity of the institution while navigating complex interpersonal dynamics. In conclusion, the decision to strip Prince Harry of his royal title is rooted in a rich historical context of royal protocol, legal authority, and precedent. From Edward VIII's abdication to Princess Margaret's constraints and beyond, the monarchy has consistently demonstrated its capacity to enforce boundaries while balancing tradition, public perception, and personal conduct. Harry's case, though modern in its media amplification and global visibility, follows the historical pattern of asserting institutional authority to preserve the continuity, dignity, and legitimacy of the royal family. This context not only illuminates the rationale behind the decision, but also situates it within a lineage of actions designed to reconcile personal autonomy with the enduring obligations of royalty. The announcement that King Charles and Prince William had officially stripped Prince Harry of his royal title sent shockwaves across the globe, but nowhere was the reaction more immediate and intense than on social media platforms. In an era where news travels at lightning speed and public opinion can be instantly quantified through likes, shares, comments, and trending hashtags, the royal decision became the focal point of widespread debate. From Twitter threads to Instagram stories, from TikTok videos to Facebook posts, the public response reflected a spectrum of emotions ranging from outrage and sympathy to schadenfreude and curiosity. Understanding this reaction is crucial, as it not only shaped the narrative surrounding the decision, but also influenced subsequent media coverage and even political commentary. Within minutes of the announcement, hashtags such as #PrinceHarryStripped, #RoyalControversy, and #MonarchyMoves began trending worldwide. Social media users quickly mobilized into factions. On one side were those who viewed the decision as necessary, emphasizing the importance of upholding royal tradition and respecting the monarchy's rules. Supporters of King Charles and Prince William argued that titles are privileges, not birthrights, and that Harry and Meghan's choices had undermined both public trust and the symbolic authority of the royal family. Many highlighted Harry's high-profile interviews, his media engagements, and the couple's apparent detachment from official duties as justifications for the stripping of his prince status. Memes circulated showing Harry in humorous or exaggerated scenarios, emphasizing perceived entitlement or missteps, illustrating how satire and commentary merged seamlessly on these platforms. On the opposing side were Harry's sympathizers, who expressed shock, disappointment, and even anger at what they considered a harsh and punitive move. Tweets and posts poured in describing Harry as a victim of an unforgiving institution a man punished for attempting to carve out a private life while balancing public duties. Many pointed to his military service, charity work, and dedication to mental health advocacy as evidence that he had contributed meaningfully to the monarchy and society at large. Posts emphasized the human side of the story, painting Harry as a figure caught between the rigidity of royal expectations and the need for personal freedom. Emotional threads, personal essays, and Instagram stories often depicted the decision as emblematic of broader systemic issues within the royal family, including a lack of empathy and an intolerance for dissent. The speed and intensity of the social media reaction also reflected the contemporary media environment, where traditional reporting now competes with user-generated content and instantaneous commentary. Influencers, journalists, and celebrities quickly joined the conversation, amplifying opinions and sparking debates. High-profile figures who had previously commented on royal matters, such as pundits and former royal correspondents, weighed in with live reactions, video commentaries, and opinion pieces shared across multiple platforms. Their insights often blended professional analysis with entertainment, further fueling the public fascination. The result was a digital echo chamber in which the story not only spread rapidly, but also evolved in real time, with new interpretations, rumors, and narratives emerging almost hourly. Public reaction was not limited to the United Kingdom. In countries with historical or cultural ties to the British monarchy, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as nations where the monarchy is primarily a subject of international intrigue, people engaged in heated debates about the implications of the decision. Polls conducted in the days following the announcement revealed deep divisions. Some respondents believed the monarchy was right to enforce its rules, while others argued that the move reflected an outdated, inflexible institution struggling to adapt to modern values. Commentators noted that these divisions were symptomatic of broader societal debates about authority, privilege, personal autonomy, and institutional transparency. Interestingly, the social media outcry was accompanied by a surge in search engine activity and online media consumption related to Prince Harry, Prince William, and King Charles. Articles, videos, podcasts, and live-stream discussions proliferated, each attempting to offer context, analysis, or exclusive insights. The virality of the story elevated it beyond traditional news cycles, making it a global conversation piece for weeks following the announcement. This phenomenon illustrated how public opinion, amplified by social media, now wields tangible influence over how high-profile decisions are perceived and framed in the public consciousness. Memes and viral content became particularly influential in shaping the narrative around Prince Harry's loss of title. Some memes humorously depicted Harry as being demoted to a commoner, while others leveraged historical or pop culture references to exaggerate the perceived drama. While humorous on the surface, these creative outputs often carried underlying commentary on class, privilege, and the role of tradition in modern society. In this sense, social media functioned as both a platform for entertainment and a lens through which broader societal questions about monarchy and authority were explored. The immediacy of social media also amplified emotional responses. Within hours, a vast number of users expressed empathy, crafting messages of support for Harry and Meghan, often accompanied by personal stories of perceived injustice or struggles with family expectations. Others used the platform to express schadenfreude, delighting in the perceived embarrassment or humbling of a high-profile figure. This duality, sympathy and mockery coexisting in real time, underscored the complex ways social media shapes perception, influencing both public sentiment and mainstream media coverage. Traditional media outlets were not immune to this digital pressure. Television networks, newspapers, and online publications closely monitored social media trends, incorporating public sentiment into their reporting. Headlines began to echo the polarized reactions observed online, emphasizing either the necessity of the decision or its perceived harshness. Editorial boards published op-eds debating the implications for monarchy, succession, and family dynamics. In effect, social media acted as a feedback loop, shaping not only public conversation but also guiding the narratives pursued by professional journalists and commentators. The social media outcry also revealed generational divides in perception. Younger audiences, more active on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, often frame the situation in terms of personal freedom, mental health, and the right to autonomy. Older audiences, more likely to follow traditional news outlets or Facebook, frequently emphasized respect for tradition, duty, and the symbolic importance of titles. This generational split highlighted how digital platforms not only broadcast opinion but also segment it, creating distinct spheres of interpretation that sometimes clashed but collectively contributed to the story's intensity. As the days passed, public opinion evolved, reflecting both ongoing analysis and the accumulation of new information. Interviews, leaked statements, and further royal communications fed into the social media dialogue, creating waves of reactions and counterreactions. Discussions often extended beyond the immediate issue of Harry's title, branching into broader debates about the relevance of monarchy, media intrusion into personal lives, and the boundaries of privilege. In this way, the public outcry surrounding the decision became a microcosm of contemporary discourse, illustrating how a single high-profile action can ripple outward, touching on societal values, generational divides, and institutional legitimacy. Ultimately, the social media and public reaction to the stripping of Prince Harry's title underscored the intersection of historical precedent, institutional authority, and modern communication dynamics. The monarchy, while centuries old, now exists in an era where public perception is instantaneous, global, and often polarized. The digital landscape magnifies every decision, and the response to Harry's situation exemplified this reality. A momentous royal action was instantly dissected, debated, and reshaped in the eyes of millions worldwide. The outcry highlighted the evolving expectations of royalty in the 21st century. It demonstrated that while titles and privileges may be formally conferred by sovereign authority, public perception now plays a vital role in shaping the legacy and impact of these decisions. The reaction revealed not only the intensity of public engagement with the royal family, but also the complexities of navigating authority, tradition, and personal autonomy in an age dominated by rapid, pervasive, and often unfiltered communication. The moment King Charles and Prince William formally announced that Prince Harry was officially stripped of his royal title, media outlets around the world erupted in a frenzy. The story was instantaneous, dominating not just front pages and television broadcasts in the United Kingdom, but also becoming the lead headline across global news networks. International attention highlighted both the enduring fascination with the British royal family and the extraordinary significance of this decision, which blurred the lines between private family matters and matters of state. Media coverage ranged from factual reporting to opinion-driven analysis, with journalists, commentators, and royal experts all weighing in on what was already being called a historical moment in modern monarchy. In the United Kingdom, traditional newspapers such as The Times, The Guardian, and The Daily Telegraph ran front-page stories detailing the royal decree, providing context on its constitutional and familial implications. Headlines varied, reflecting the editorial stances of each publication. Some emphasized the gravity of the decision, framing it as a necessary measure to uphold the dignity of the monarchy, while others highlighted the human drama and potential emotional fallout for Prince Harry and his family. Television networks, including the BBC, ITV, and Sky News, produced continuous coverage, with live panels discussing the motives behind the decision, possible consequences for the monarchy's public image, and predictions for Harry's personal and professional future. These analyses were often interwoven with archival footage of Harry throughout his life, military service, public engagements, and interviews, providing audiences with both context and emotional resonance. Internationally, the story sparked intense coverage in Europe, North America, Australia, and Asia. In the United States, major networks such as CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC aired extensive segments, exploring both the familial conflict and the broader implications for Anglo-American relations, public perception, and celebrity culture. Many U.S. commentators framed the decision through the lens of Harry and Meghan's high-profile media presence, contrasting it with the more reserved nature of the British royal family. American tabloids and entertainment networks added a layer of drama to the story, focusing on Harry's personal life, potential legal battles, and the media strategy surrounding his and Meghan's public appearances. Similarly, in Australia and Canada, newspapers and broadcasters examined the ramifications for royal family members in the Commonwealth, questioning whether this decision signaled a shift in how royals outside the United Kingdom were perceived or treated. Social media-driven reporting played a critical role in amplifying international reactions. News outlets rapidly shared video clips, soundbites, and images of the royal announcement, which were then circulated by millions of users globally. International audiences engaged in fervent debate, often comparing the British monarchy to other royal families or celebrity institutions worldwide. In countries where the monarchy has a symbolic or cultural connection, such as New Zealand, Jamaica, and India, public conversations ranged from curiosity to criticism. Analysts noted that the story tapped into universal themes: family conflict, the tension between personal freedom and institutional duty, and the consequences of public scrutiny. In this way, media coverage transformed a seemingly domestic royal matter into a global event. Expert analysis was central to media narratives. Constitutional scholars, royal correspondents, and historians were frequently interviewed to provide context and explain the legal and ceremonial basis for stripping a title. They elaborated on how the British monarchy operates, highlighting that while the sovereign has the authority to grant and revoke titles, such a decision has rarely been made in modern times. Analysts drew parallels to historical instances where royals faced demotion or disinheritance, noting that the combination of personal conflict and public scrutiny made Harry's situation unprecedented. These explanations were designed to educate viewers while simultaneously enhancing the dramatic effect, reinforcing the perception that this was a moment of historical significance. International media also emphasized the emotional and human aspect of the story. Profiles and feature articles delved into Harry's past, exploring his childhood under constant media attention, his struggles with mental health, and the highly publicized tensions with other royal family members. By humanizing Harry, reporters and commentators invited audiences to consider the personal toll of the royal decision, eliciting empathy even from those geographically or culturally distant from the United Kingdom. This narrative framing reinforced the tension between duty and individuality, illustrating the difficult balance royals face when personal choices clash with institutional expectations. The media coverage did not shy away from speculation. Outlets reported on possible future implications for Harry's public engagements, his charitable endeavors, and potential legal challenges. Discussions included how the decision might affect Meghan Markle, given her high-profile status and influence, and how the couple's ongoing media projects, including books, interviews, and podcasts, could be impacted. Analysts also debated the broader message sent to other royals and public figures about accountability and privilege, framing the story as both a family drama and a case study in modern institutional authority. International audiences often viewed the story through the lens of cultural differences. In countries with no monarchy, commentators compared Harry's experience to corporate or political leadership conflicts, while in monarchies or former monarchies, the story sparked discussions about the preservation of tradition versus adaptation to contemporary norms. The coverage frequently raised questions about the relevance and adaptability of hereditary titles in a modern, media-saturated world, making Harry's situation a touchpoint for broader societal reflection. Public engagement with media coverage was enormous. Viewership numbers for television segments spiked, online articles received millions of clicks, and social media posts were shared globally, often accompanied by commentary and debate. The story's viral nature ensured that it remained a trending topic for weeks, with new developments, insider accounts, and interviews keeping the public engaged. Media outlets actively sought exclusive statements, interviews, or leaked documents, further intensifying the coverage and blurring the lines between factual reporting and investigative storytelling. Overall, media coverage and international reaction to the stripping of Prince Harry's title showcased the monarchy's unique position at the intersection of history, celebrity, and global attention. It highlighted the extraordinary scrutiny faced by high-profile individuals and illustrated how modern media, with its speed, reach, and intensity, can transform a domestic decision into a worldwide phenomenon. The story underscored the monarchy's vulnerability to public perception while simultaneously emphasizing the enduring fascination with royal lives, decisions, and the drama that unfolds behind palace walls. This chapter also demonstrated that while the decision was made within the United Kingdom, its ripple effects were global, shaping international perceptions of the royal family, influencing media narratives worldwide, and provoking discussions about duty, privilege, and personal autonomy in ways that extended far beyond the palace. The coverage and reactions became part of the story itself, amplifying the stakes and ensuring that the stripping of Prince Harry's title would be remembered not only as a royal decree, but as a global media event that captivated audiences on every continent. The announcement that Prince Harry was officially stripped of his royal title sent shockwaves throughout the royal family, creating ripples of tension, uncertainty, and reflection that reached every corner of the institution. Internally, the decision altered family dynamics in ways that were both immediate and long-lasting, forcing members to confront questions about loyalty, duty, and the balance between personal freedom and the expectations of monarchy. For King Charles, Prince William, and other senior royals, the move was as much a strategic assertion of authority as it was a response to ongoing friction within the family. Each interaction, public appearance, and private conversation became infused with heightened awareness of the stakes, with every gesture scrutinized for its political and emotional significance. Within the palace walls, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Staff members, aides, and household personnel sensed a palpable tension as the announcement reverberated. Courtiers who had long managed ceremonial functions and public engagements found themselves navigating a more charged environment, balancing the need to maintain protocol with the unspoken undercurrents of family discord. Sources close to the royal family reported hushed discussions about the timing of public statements, the order of private meetings, and the careful calibration required to manage both domestic and international media fallout. Every decision became a test of discretion and diplomacy, as the monarchy faced the dual pressures of tradition and modern scrutiny. Prince William, in particular, emerged as a central figure in the unfolding drama. As the heir apparent, he carried the dual responsibility of protecting the monarchy's public image while maintaining personal relationships with his younger brother. According to insiders, William's reaction was a mixture of pragmatic concern and emotional strain. He understood the necessity of reinforcing the hierarchy within the royal family, yet he also grappled with the personal implications of publicly distancing himself from Harry. In private, conversations reportedly revolved around reconciliation, damage control, and the delicate negotiation of familial bonds against the backdrop of historical precedent. Every interaction became a careful choreography of words, tone, and timing, designed to navigate the intersection of family loyalty and institutional duty. For King Charles, the decision represented a consolidation of authority and a clear statement regarding the limits of royal privilege. By officially revoking Harry's title, Charles reinforced the principle that titles are not solely hereditary but contingent upon adherence to the responsibilities and expectations of the monarchy. Sources indicate that Charles viewed the move as necessary to preserve the dignity and stability of the institution, particularly given the public controversies and media conflicts that had previously involved Harry and Meghan. By taking decisive action, the king not only reaffirmed his leadership but also signaled to other family members that the monarchy's traditions and protocols remained paramount. The decision was carefully framed as a balance between compassion for individual circumstances and a commitment to the greater good of the royal institution. The impact on family relationships extended beyond the immediate circle of Charles, William, and Harry. Senior members, including Queen Camilla and Princess Anne, were reportedly involved in discussions about the implications of the announcement, weighing considerations of public perception, emotional well-being, and the potential for future reconciliation. Extended family members, cousins, and in-laws were also drawn into the orbit of speculation, often serving as intermediaries or confidants in behind-the-scenes communications. These dynamics underscored the interconnectedness of personal relationships and institutional responsibilities within the royal household, where each decision carries both symbolic and practical consequences. Public perception of the royal family shifted significantly in the aftermath of the announcement. Opinion polls conducted in the days following the news indicated a complex array of responses. Some members of the public expressed support for the decision, viewing it as a necessary measure to uphold the monarchy's credibility, while others sympathized with Harry, seeing him as a figure unfairly punished for seeking independence and personal happiness. Media narratives, social media discussions, and opinion pieces contributed to a multifaceted portrayal of the royal family, highlighting both the human drama and the broader cultural significance of the event. The monarchy's public image became a focal point of analysis, with commentators exploring how the decision might influence the institution's relevance, authority, and appeal in a modern democratic society. Analysts also noted the psychological and emotional toll of the decision on the family. The process of stripping a title is not merely administrative. It carries symbolic weight, affecting identity, status, and perceived legitimacy. For Harry, the formal revocation of his princely status represented both a personal and public rupture, challenging his sense of belonging and altering his relationship with the monarchy. Observers suggested that the impact on interpersonal relationships would likely extend for years, as trust, communication, and shared experiences became entwined with the broader narrative of public scrutiny and institutional authority. The monarchy, while resilient in its history, was now navigating a chapter that combined personal conflict with global attention, a combination rarely encountered in modern times. The ripple effects extended to the monarchy's approach to public duties. Senior royals faced heightened pressure to maintain a sense of unity and continuity, particularly during official engagements, charitable events, and ceremonial occasions. Every appearance required careful consideration of optics, messaging, and public sentiment, ensuring that the family projected stability despite internal tensions. Advisors and public relations teams coordinated messaging across platforms, emphasizing tradition, duty, and the broader purpose of the monarchy, while attempting to mitigate the potential for controversy or misinterpretation. The stakes were particularly high given the international audience and the heightened scrutiny from both traditional media and digital platforms. Legal and constitutional experts also weighed in on the implications of the decision. While the sovereign has the authority to grant or revoke titles, the revocation of a prince's title in modern times remains extraordinary. Analysts debated whether the decision could set a precedent for future generations, affecting the relationship between individual royals and the crown. They also considered how such decisions intersected with public expectations, constitutional norms, and the ceremonial functions of the monarchy. These discussions were framed within a historical context, highlighting past instances of demotion or disinheritance, but emphasizing that Harry's case was unique due to its combination of personal conflict, media attention, and public scrutiny. The decision also prompted reflection within the royal family about succession, legacy, and public engagement. Discussions reportedly centered on the need to preserve institutional continuity, protect the monarchy's reputation, and balance personal freedom with public responsibility. These conversations were not merely reactive. They involved strategic planning, scenario analysis, and consideration of long-term implications for both senior and junior family members. The monarchy's leadership faced the dual challenge of addressing immediate tensions while preparing for a future in which public expectations, media dynamics, and societal values continued to evolve. In conclusion, the revocation of Prince Harry's title had profound and multifaceted effects on the royal family's dynamics and public image. Internally, it altered personal relationships, introduced emotional strain, and required careful navigation of loyalty, duty, and discretion. Externally, it reshaped public perception, dominated media narratives, and prompted reflection on the monarchy's relevance in a modern, media-driven world. The announcement served as both a personal and institutional watershed moment, highlighting the delicate balance between family, tradition, and public scrutiny. It underscored the challenges faced by an institution steeped in history, yet operating in a contemporary context, where every decision reverberates across private and public spheres, influencing perceptions, relationships, and the ongoing narrative of the monarchy itself. The world waited with bated breath as news of Prince Harry being stripped of his royal title spread like wildfire across global media outlets. The headlines alone, blaring across television screens, newspapers, and online platforms, created an immediate sense of shock, disbelief, and curiosity. Public reaction ranged from outrage to sympathy, and amid the whirlwind of speculation, all eyes turned to Harry. How would he respond? What would he say? And, more importantly, would he choose to speak publicly or retreat into silence? Within hours of the announcement, a carefully worded statement was released on behalf of Harry, reflecting both his personal emotions and strategic positioning. The statement, delivered through his official channels and amplified by social media, was carefully crafted to convey his perspective while maintaining a degree of restraint. In it, Harry expressed his disappointment and heartbreak, acknowledging the gravity of the decision while underscoring the personal toll it had taken on him and his family. The words chosen were measured yet poignant, reflecting a balance between candor and dignity, ensuring that his response resonated without inflaming further controversy. Harry began by acknowledging the historical weight of the announcement, situating his experience within the broader context of royal tradition and familial responsibility. He referenced his lifelong dedication to service, highlighting the work he had undertaken in charitable organizations, advocacy initiatives, and military engagements. By doing so, he sought to remind the public that his contributions were not solely defined by titles or ceremonial roles, but by actions, commitments, and enduring values. This framing allowed Harry to establish moral authority and credibility, reinforcing the notion that a title alone does not define one's character or impact. The emotional dimension of Harry's statement was particularly striking. He openly described the personal pain of being formally stripped of the title he had carried since birth, a symbolic severing that felt both public and intimate. He spoke candidly about the sense of loss, vulnerability, and isolation he experienced, offering a glimpse into the human side of the royal narrative. These reflections resonated with many members of the public, evoking empathy and a sense of shared humanity. Observers noted that Harry's ability to articulate his feelings without descending into anger or defensiveness contributed to the statement's impact, demonstrating emotional intelligence and self-awareness under extraordinary pressure. Interwoven throughout the statement was a subtle critique of the system and dynamics that led to this moment. Harry referenced the constraints, expectations, and pressures associated with royal life, highlighting how these forces often create conflict between personal fulfillment and institutional duty. He reflected on the challenges of maintaining autonomy while adhering to long-standing protocols, and he expressed a desire for understanding rather than confrontation. The phrasing was strategic, allowing Harry to voice dissatisfaction without directly attacking his family, a careful balancing act intended to preserve avenues for potential reconciliation while still asserting his perspective. Harry's statement also included an appeal to the public, a conscious effort to frame the narrative in human terms rather than as a purely political or institutional matter. He spoke of family bonds, love, and loyalty, emphasizing that despite the formal revocation of his title, his connection to his loved ones remained enduring. This personal appeal served multiple purposes. It humanized the story, engaged global audiences on an emotional level, and positioned Harry as someone capable of reflection and empathy even in the face of perceived injustice. The inclusion of these personal elements was a calculated move, ensuring that the public could relate to his experience beyond the celebrity and royal dimensions. In addition to the emotional and personal aspects, Harry's response conveyed a clear sense of agency and future intent. He emphasized his commitment to continuing his charitable work, advocating for causes he believed in, and supporting communities both in the United Kingdom and internationally. This forward-looking approach reframed the narrative from one of loss and limitation to one of resilience and purpose. By signaling that his contributions and influence would persist regardless of formal titles, Harry sought to redefine what it meant to be a public figure beyond traditional royal parameters. Analysts later observed that this approach was likely aimed at reassuring supporters and maintaining credibility in both domestic and international spheres. The public reception of Harry's statement was complex and multifaceted. Media outlets dissected every phrase, social media users debated the tone and implications, and commentators analyzed the political and cultural significance of his words. Some praised Harry's candidness and emotional intelligence, viewing the statement as a testament to his character and maturity. Others critiqued it as a calculated attempt to garner sympathy and manage his public image, highlighting the tensions inherent in the intersection of celebrity, royalty, and media strategy. Regardless of opinion, the statement succeeded in maintaining Harry at the center of global discourse, ensuring that his perspective could not be ignored or overshadowed by institutional messaging. Experts on public relations and crisis communication noted the strategic elements within Harry's statement. The tone was conciliatory yet assertive, blending vulnerability with authority. The pacing of the message, beginning with acknowledgement, moving through personal reflection, and ending with forward-looking commitment, was designed to maximize engagement and impact. Observers highlighted the deliberate avoidance of inflammatory language, the emphasis on shared values, and the careful framing of dissatisfaction as constructive critique rather than attack. These elements combined to create a response that was both emotionally compelling and strategically sound, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of media dynamics and audience perception. Harry's statement also carried implications for the broader narrative surrounding the monarchy. By publicly addressing the revocation of his title, he contributed to shaping the discourse on royal accountability, tradition, and the balance between personal autonomy and institutional expectation. His words prompted discussion about the evolving role of royalty in contemporary society, the pressures faced by individuals born into the institution, and the ways in which personal choices intersect with public perception. In essence, Harry's response transformed a personal moment of loss into a broader conversation about the monarchy's relevance, challenges, and adaptability. The timing and medium of the statement were equally significant. Released shortly after the official announcement, it demonstrated Harry's awareness of the importance of immediacy in shaping narratives. By leveraging both official channels and social media, he ensured that the message reached diverse audiences, including global supporters, media outlets, and critics alike. This approach reinforced the notion that in today's media landscape, narrative control requires both speed and strategic deployment across multiple platforms, a lesson that the monarchy and public figures continue to navigate with increasing sophistication. The language used in the statement also reflected a nuanced understanding of tone and audience. Harry employed phrases that were both personal and universal, balancing specificity with relatability. References to family, duty, and personal sacrifice were coupled with broader reflections on service, commitment, and resilience. This dual focus allowed the statement to resonate across cultural, geographic, and generational boundaries, ensuring that the message was accessible while maintaining depth and substance. By addressing both personal emotion and public responsibility, Harry demonstrated a keen awareness of the dual roles he occupies as a family member and a global figure. In reflecting on the statement, observers noted the careful calibration between vulnerability and strength. Harry's openness about the emotional impact of losing his title was tempered by assertions of agency, purpose, and continued commitment. This combination fostered empathy while reinforcing his credibility, allowing the public to perceive him as both affected by circumstances and empowered to act despite them. Such a balance is particularly challenging in situations where personal stakes intersect with intense public scrutiny, underscoring the skill required to navigate communication in high-profile controversies. Ultimately, Harry's public response and statement represented a critical juncture in the ongoing narrative surrounding his relationship with the royal family. It served multiple functions, addressing personal emotions, framing public perception, asserting agency, and contributing to broader discussions about monarchy and modernity. The statement's impact extended beyond the immediate news cycle, influencing media discourse, public opinion, and the strategic considerations of both Harry and his family. By speaking candidly yet thoughtfully, Harry ensured that his perspective remained central to the unfolding story, providing insight into his values, priorities, and intentions at a pivotal moment in his life and public role. As soon as the news broke that Prince Harry had been officially stripped of his royal title, an unprecedented media storm erupted across the globe. Television networks interrupted scheduled programming to broadcast live coverage. Online news portals flooded their homepages with bold headlines, and social media platforms exploded with a mixture of outrage, sympathy, speculation, and viral memes. Within minutes, the story had dominated trending topics on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok, with millions of users sharing articles, commentary, and personal opinions. The sheer velocity of information dissemination created a dynamic where the story became larger than the man himself, transforming into a cultural phenomenon that reached far beyond the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, traditional newspapers led with striking headlines that left no doubt about the gravity of the situation. Harry stripped of Prince title blared across the front pages of tabloids, while broadsheets provided in-depth analyses of the legal and constitutional implications of King Charles's decision. Editorials dissected every angle, from historical precedent to the potential impact on public perception of the monarchy. Columnists debated whether this move was a necessary act of royal discipline or a politically charged message aimed at reinforcing the authority of the reigning monarch. Letters to the editor poured in from citizens expressing a wide range of emotions: shock, anger, sympathy, and disappointment, illustrating the intensity with which the public engaged with the unfolding story. Television networks took a different approach, combining live reporting with panel discussions that analyzed both the personal and institutional dimensions of the decision. Expert commentators, including royal historians, constitutional lawyers, and media analysts, were brought in to provide context, drawing on decades of precedent and insider knowledge. One recurring theme in these discussions was the historical rarity of a prince being stripped of his title in the modern era. Analysts emphasized that while the monarchy has long exercised discretion over titles and privileges, such a public revocation of status was highly unusual and indicative of deeper tensions within the royal family. Footage of Harry's past public appearances, military service, and charitable work was juxtaposed with commentary on the symbolic significance of titles and the enduring power of royal branding. Social media played an equally crucial role in shaping the narrative. Millions of users posted instant reactions, memes, and short videos expressing disbelief, humor, or outrage. Hashtags such as #PrinceHarry, #RoyalControversy, and #stripped of titles trended worldwide, with users from every corner of the globe weighing in. Influencers, celebrities, and public figures added their voices, some offering support, others critiquing the decision, and a few even sharing humorous takes that went viral within hours. Analysts noted that social media amplified the emotional dimension of the story, allowing ordinary citizens to participate in the global conversation and shaping public perception in ways traditional media could not fully control. International media coverage expanded the scope of the story even further. Outlets in the United States, Europe, Asia, and Australia reported extensively on the revocation of Harry's title, framing the story in terms of its implications for the monarchy's global image and the broader dynamics of royal family relationships. American networks, in particular, highlighted the emotional and human interest aspects of the story, emphasizing Harry's personal response, his family dynamics, and the potential rift between him and King Charles. Commentary often included comparisons with American celebrities who experience public scrutiny and the challenges of maintaining personal integrity under intense media pressure, drawing parallels that resonated with domestic audiences. Public reaction was immediate and deeply divided. Supporters of Harry expressed outrage at what they perceived as an unnecessarily harsh and symbolic punishment, arguing that he had served his country and contributed meaningfully to charitable causes for decades. Online petitions circulated, calling for a reconsideration of the decision, while fan forums erupted with messages of solidarity. These supporters often framed the revocation as evidence of systemic rigidity within the monarchy, highlighting Harry's efforts to modernize and humanize royal traditions as justification for public sympathy. At the same time, critics of Harry's behavior cited the decision as a long-overdue assertion of royal discipline and authority. Some argued that Harry had repeatedly challenged the conventions of royal life, publicly criticized his family, and engaged in actions that undermined institutional cohesion. Opinion pieces in this vein characterized the revocation as a necessary step to maintain the dignity and stability of the monarchy, emphasizing the importance of accountability and adherence to tradition. The intensity of debate in both traditional and digital media underscored the polarizing nature of the story and highlighted how personal choices within the royal family reverberate across national and international audiences. Social scientists and media analysts began studying the phenomenon almost immediately, noting the ways in which the story exemplified the convergence of traditional media, digital platforms, and public sentiment. The rapid dissemination of news, combined with instantaneous public commentary, created a feedback loop in which perception and narrative were constantly evolving. Analysts highlighted that the global fascination with royalty, combined with the deeply personal and emotional nature of the decision, created the perfect storm for viral engagement. Polls conducted in the days following the announcement indicated that public opinion was split, with some perceiving the decision as justified and others seeing it as unnecessarily punitive, illustrating the deep societal and cultural divisions that royal matters can evoke. Amid this media frenzy, mainstream journalists emphasized the human side of the story, focusing on Harry's emotional response and the implications for his immediate family. Reports surfaced detailing private conversations, the reactions of Meghan Markle, and the perspectives of other family members. Insider sources claimed that staff members and close advisors had been caught off guard by the swiftness of the decision, adding a layer of intrigue and speculation. Journalists highlighted the potential ripple effects on Harry's charitable organizations, his public engagements, and the public perception of the monarchy itself. Each detail, however small, was dissected, analyzed, and shared widely, feeding the ongoing frenzy. The coverage extended beyond news and commentary, influencing cultural conversations in unexpected ways. Memes and viral videos depicted imagined scenarios of royal life post-title revocation, ranging from humorous to poignant, while social media debates explored the ethics, legality, and morality of stripping a prince of his title. Podcast episodes, YouTube videos, and live-stream discussions proliferated, with hosts dissecting the decision, predicting future developments, and speculating about potential reconciliations or further conflicts. This saturation of content ensured that the story remained in the public consciousness for weeks, reinforcing its status as a major cultural and media event. In addition to the media and public discourse, experts highlighted the financial implications of the decision. Analysts discussed potential impacts on Harry's brand, philanthropic endeavors, and public appearances, noting that the loss of a formal title could affect sponsorships, speaking engagements, and media projects. Conversely, some argued that the controversy could paradoxically enhance Harry's profile, creating new opportunities for influence and visibility outside traditional royal channels. The intersection of personal narrative, public perception, and financial consequence further illustrated the complex dimensions of the story and the multifaceted consequences of royal decisions in the modern age. Ultimately, the media frenzy and public reaction to Prince Harry's title revocation demonstrated the intricate interplay between monarchy, media, and society. Coverage across traditional and digital platforms, combined with a highly engaged and opinionated public, created a dynamic environment in which every statement, photograph, and rumor could influence perception. The story exemplified how deeply personal decisions within royal families resonate on a global scale, shaping discourse, inspiring debate, and creating enduring cultural narratives. By the end of the first week following the announcement, it was clear that the media frenzy had not only maintained but intensified public interest. Commentators predicted ongoing analysis, further revelations, and long-term scrutiny of Harry, his family, and the monarchy as a whole. The event became a case study in modern media dynamics, illustrating the power of narrative, emotion, and global connectivity in shaping public understanding and cultural impact. The revocation of Prince Harry's royal title did not merely ignite media frenzy and public debate. It also triggered a complex web of political and legal implications that reached far beyond the walls of Buckingham Palace. The decision intersected with constitutional law, parliamentary oversight, royal prerogatives, and international diplomacy, raising questions about precedent, governance, and the evolving role of the monarchy in modern Britain. While the emotional and cultural consequences were immediately visible, the legal and political dimensions unfolded gradually, revealing the intricate machinery behind such a historic action. At the heart of the matter lies the unique constitutional framework of the British monarchy. Unlike purely ceremonial heads of state, the United Kingdom's monarch operates within a web of centuries-old traditions, legal statutes, and unwritten conventions. Royal titles are governed by letters patent, formal decrees issued by the sovereign, which define the rights, privileges, and succession order of members of the royal family. In Harry's case, his title of Prince of the United Kingdom had been granted at birth by letters patent from Queen Elizabeth II. The revocation, therefore, required not only the consent of King Charles III but also careful consideration of legal procedures, as altering letters patent raises constitutional questions about authority, precedent, and the balance of power between monarchy and government. The political ramifications were immediate and multifaceted. Members of Parliament were compelled to respond, with debates erupting in both the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Opposition politicians questioned whether the decision was purely a matter of royal prerogative or whether it intersected with parliamentary oversight. Some MPs argued that stripping a royal title from a family member, particularly one so high-profile and internationally recognized,